Right, this one should be very quick. Some goddesses are complicated, and you have to do a little bit of maths, try and work out exactly what is optimal for them and when. Ra is not that. Ra is pretty much the opposite of that. Whereas you've got other goddesses with very complicated abilities, Ra's is very simple. It doesn't really affect into like devotion generation or there are no rules behind it. It's not like she gets any sort of advantage from the grave. Anything complicated, you don't have to think about anything, right? It's purely a positional ability, and the way that you're supposed to use this ability always kind of felt super obvious to me. I believe that when I was going through Greek mythology, I said it best. I think my initial impression was pretty good, and that's just that I said that Ra is like the rudest goddess, right? She's really rude. She's also so clearly like a rush goddess. She is a super aggressive early game rush type goddess. Because what I mean by rude is that most goddesses, like you'll play the game and like you'll build your board, devotion creation, play these little games with each other, try and outmaneuver them. You make good trades for you that generate devotion, generate value for you, deny your opponent value, things like that, which is often why I always talk about Mummy, because I just love how like economically satisfying that card is. Ra is Ra just skips a lot of this, right? Like that whole like even if you're playing, an aggressive goddess like Zeus, who is also like a rush goddess, Zeus still like has to work her way towards you. Ra doesn't. She just skips all of that. She doesn't care about like half the board, like the bit in the middle. She doesn't really care most of the time. She will immediately stick something in your face. She's gonna rush straight at you, put something right in your face, put a mummy in your face, Bast, egg, it doesn't matter. She's going to skip that whole like nice little build up phase and the fact that you start opposite corners. You need to work your way towards each other and try and take their monuments down, but they're going to try and shield their monuments by putting chaff in the way, and you're doing the same. She's just not interested, right? What this does mean is that she's the fastest, most aggressive goddess in the game. If you start bad against Ra, you lose. Like if she has a god star and you just like don't have a lot to play, she can just beat you straight away. And the way she can beat, like, there are quite a few ways that she can beat you, but this is the simplest way that you can lose to Ra by the end of turn one. You can literally lose to Ra turn one, right? If Ra goes, like, she'd prefer to go first. The ideal start for Ra is actually turn one, Soul Extraction, Phoenix Egg. That's the ideal start for Ra. But she can beat you turn one. If you go first, put nothing down. Ra has 7, and she puts down, say, like mummy, phoenix egg, or double phoenix egg. It doesn't matter. You've put nothing down. You had nothing to put down. You had a bad start, nothing to put down. She puts a phoenix, like you are in a corner, so there are only 2 available spaces for you. She will put a phoenix egg to the left of you and a phoenix egg below you. And you have no spaces to put anything, yeah? Like, you can only put things in the spaces adjacent to you. But now the spaces adjacent to you have like 2 phoenix eggs in, or mummies, or whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, you now have nowhere to put anything, so you have to attack with your goddess. And Ra is actually considered a fast goddess. She only costs 10 to attack, yeah? That is considered cheap for a goddess, but for almost any other unit, that is a terrible deal. That's so bad. And your opponent's now in a situation where they have to use their goddess to attack, which is so incredibly devotion inefficient, just to free up space to then put something on the board. But in order to attack, you use all your devotions. You can't put anything on the board, which means Ra then just puts another mummy or a Bast. Like she just replaces it and goes, okay, we'll do it again then. And a lot of the time, this is kind of something that Ra needs to do. I think it is such a relief that Ra only gets 5 devotion generation a turn. I think she has to have 5 to counterbalance her ability. Whereas other goddesses try to use their ability to generate extra devotion or to generate an advantage in combat, which allows them to constantly trade upwards. Ra has to balance her suboptimal base generation with putting you in awkward positions that force you to expend high amounts of devotion. So it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of similar to, you know, like, whereas I'm always like, oh, mummy's so great. You put down a mummy for 4 and they have to clear it. But in order to clear the mummy, you know, let's just say they've got a mummy and you've got a mummy in the way. They have to expend 16 actually for a mummy. Mummy's very, very expensive. You'd have to expend 16 to get rid of a 4-cost mummy. Ra wants to do that to you all the time. She wants to get super aggressive. So this is very unlike Amaterasu, who is very complicated, or Hades or anything. This shouldn't take very long to describe. I mean, we've already described Ra. It's very, very clear what she wants to do. She wants to rush at you, and she has the ability to just skip that bit where she's like, it takes her 4 or 5 turns to get to you. She can get to you turn 1, and if you mess up turn 1, or if you have a bad start turn 1, the game can be over turn 1. That's not an exaggeration. If you look at my actual insane mode campaign with her, there are multiple battles where it's literally over turn 1. They can't do anything. They just cannot do anything. They're absolutely stuck. I'm going to go through the deck. You've already got the general idea. Sphinx. This is one of your win conditions. It's also why you've got, trying to find it, battle plan, right? Sphinx only costs 4. I've talked about Ninkyo and I was talking about Amaterasu and how Ninkyo is also like your super finisher, like incredible. Only paying 4 for 10 in terms of damage, you know, paying 4 devotion per 10 is incredibly good value. Battle plan makes that obscene because a single battle plan makes her 25% cheaper. And, you know, a battle plan after that makes her 33% cheaper. Suddenly she's only paying 2 devotion per 10, which is insanely good value. You know, it is kind of like a toss-up between like Ninkyo and Sphinx and these other things. But of course, because Ra likes Egyptian cards, this allows you to get wins out of nowhere. Like, at any point, if your opponent makes a mistake and leaves an opening, and, you know, you've like Seaquaked earlier, so they're down to 60, you go, okay, well, they've got 60 health left. I've got 2 battle plans on the field. So Sphinx is at 2 per 10. So I just need to attack. 2 times 6 is 12. Sphinx, 15. That's 27. If I have 27 devotion, the game's just over. I can literally drop a Sphinx next to the goddess and finish that game. Ra is so dangerous. As health points get lower, she's one of the goddesses that's most favoured. Not as favoured as Loki, but still, it's so difficult, you know, like she really can finish a game just by dropping. Like, I mean, this is one of your win conditions, right? Is 2 battle plans already crazy? 3 battle plans. If you've got all 3 battle plans down, so things cost 1 per 10. That's like 2, like that is just crazy. Like, words can't even. It's so clear how good that is. That's absolutely amazing. I've got the usual, like Earthquake, Armageddon, Seaquake. This is just in case the game gets out of control. Like, I'm talking about like when the game goes well for Ra, and she's got a good hand, you've got a bad hand. She gets to go first. She soul extracts you. You've got problems. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't always happen. A lot of times she'll have a medium hand, or you'll have a good hand and you like get a Medusa out, a couple of Minotaurs, something. So she can't like really hem you in. She has to start playing these kind of weird value games where she just places your her units. It's almost like a game of Snake where you're trying to escape and she's trying to like tighten the hold and force you into a small part of the map, which you really don't want to be in. So yeah, okay, like sometimes this is really going to happen. You have to accurately assess with Ra. Okay, she's strongest turn 1 to 3 and then turn 15 plus, I would say. If the initial like turn 1 to 3 you get out of, she struggles because she's only got base 5 generation. And then in the late game, when health points get low and, you know, spaces open up, you've got all these board clears, she gets dangerous again. Like turn 15 plus, there's devotion around. You know, she can do you can basically break it down into late game she's dangerous because of like Sphinx plays. Early game she's dangerous because you can drop one of these 3 and she just forces you into these horrible trades. Great Desert is also a game winner for you. Armageddon, Great Desert ends games. That's it. Like, a lot of the time this is enough. Like, Armageddon means nothing is on the board. Say you're against Zeus, right? Nothing, like you've just removed everything from the board. So Zeus benefits from nothing. It's just got 5 generation. Yeah, it's just got 5 devotion generation. You Great Desert, Zeus generates, you know, 5 devotion, right? The only thing is that like the board's already been swept. So, like Armageddon isn't going to be played turn 1. This is like turn 6, 7, 8. You play Armageddon. So Zeus has already thrown out all its cheapest units because it wants to get going. It wants to, you know, get all that bonus devotion. So now the stuff it's got in its hand are very unlikely to be like the Medusas, the Minotaurs, all the cheap stuff, the stuff that it can afford on just like 5 devotion. It's played most of that, and all it can really hope for is to draw. Like it's basically just like one card. It's just praying for a draw, a lucky draw. If it doesn't get that, it can't play anything. Like it's only got 5 devotion. If it hasn't got anything for 5 devotion, it can't play anything. Goes back to your turn. Desert takes the 5 devotion. They go back to 0 devotion, and they just go nowhere. And the game is over at that point. Like Zeus just can't do anything. It's just praying for like a Minotaur, something like that. But you're well equipped as Ra to handle that. You know, they finally draw a Minotaur. They put it on the board. You can literally just put a unit next to it, wherever that Minotaur is. You can put a unit next to the Minotaur and just destroy it again. You've already got devotion advantage because Zeus has 5 base generation. You've got 5 base generation, but you've got a great desert out as well. Right, so we're going to get to Bast, Phoenix Egg, Mummy. Again, like the most important thing about these is they are cheap, yeah? 5, 3, 4, 5 for 3. Because of the 5 base generation, you get a little bit hurt, but a combination of these are all going to work for you. If your opponent puts even if your opponent puts something down, what you want is just like double Phoenix Egg or Mummy Phoenix Egg, something like that. Like those two, like mathematically you can afford on 7. Put them next to your opponent. This is if they screw up. Even if they don't screw up, often what you like to do is if your opponent has put a unit downwards from them, you put the Phoenix Egg next to their goddess, and then you put the Mummy next to their unit, which means they only have one space they can put the next unit. The next unit has to go down, right? They can't put it to the other side because there's a Phoenix Egg in the way of the goddess. So they then have to go down, which protects your Phoenix Egg. And you play this game of Snake, where they go down and you just like force them around the corner. You only need 3 turns with the Phoenix Egg, and it puts your opponent in a situation where they either need to attack with their goddess, which we've already said is super inefficient. You know, they have to destroy this Phoenix Egg, or they keep playing this game of Snake and the Phoenix Egg pops and becomes a Phoenix, which is also bad. You put them in a very, very difficult situation. And that's a situation where that's like an average start for Ra, right? That's when you don't close them in. They get like a Fushimi or something to one side of them. You put the egg next to their goddess. You just put mummies, basts, and you just like dot them around and force them. So they've always only got like one place they can put their next unit, further and further away from your Phoenix Egg. They never have any opportunity to get to it. Yeah, of course. Mummies as well. You know, I've talked about mummies so often. They're a little bit better from with Ra because they're Egyptian. So of course you can initially place them anywhere. It doesn't say this on the Ra card, but from the graveyard you can't put mummies anywhere. It's only from the hand that Ra can put Egyptian units anywhere on the battlefield. That's not normally too terrible. You have to consider it. But normally it just means that you like plop a Bast down and then you put the Phoenix Egg from the graveyard next to the Bast anyway. So it still goes in the place that you want it. Phoenix Egg I've already kind of talked about a bit. It is amazing when you first put it down because it only costs you 3 devotion. So similar to Mummy, this is just like a value trade efficiency. Like you'll take this deal all day long. You paid 3 devotion, they attack it. It is almost impossible for them to like make a positive trade with this egg, right? So it's amazing on the first turn when you plop it down. And then, of course, eventually it spawns into a Phoenix, which also turns into one of your game winners, similar to Sphinx. I love Phoenix Egg on Ra because it just puts people in very awkward positions and you can choose what the board looks like because you can put your units anywhere. You have more agency than most goddesses over exactly where each unit goes and exactly what each unit has next to it at any point in time, which makes her better with Phoenix Egg than the other Egyptian goddesses in my opinion. I may change that opinion in the future. This is just my initial opinion looking at all the Egyptian goddesses. You know, why don't I just check them? That would make sense, right? It's literally, let's just check them. Yeah, I mean, ISIS, they have no real exact like control over where units go or what's next to what. Ra does. She can always decide. Like, they put down a Sphinx, she can decide to put down a mummy next to it, or she can decide to just put a Phoenix egg to the opposite end of the battlefield. So the Sphinx at least has to like move all the way to destroy that egg. And you know, the Phoenix egg does create pressure, and they will want to move all the way to that egg. Izumo Taisha has just become one of my favourite cards in the game. I always have like 3 or 4 of it because it's impossible to clog up your hand with this, or it's like super difficult. It's never actually happened to me. It is possible, like if you put down Izumo Taisha and they destroy it, and you've got like 3 more in your hand, you're kind like in that respect you are clogged. But in like 99% of the time, you put down Izumo Taisha, your hand is clogged with Izumo Taishas, right? You've got all of them, all 4 of them in your hand. Your hand is terrible, right? That's not a problem because you just discard one of them. You draw a new card. So you had 4 of them in your hand. You put down one. Next turn, you discard the second one, and you get a fresh card. You replace the Taisha with something useful. Turn after that, you discard the third Taisha. You know what I mean? Like it's very hard for Taisha to actually clog up your hand in a way that very few other cards can. In fact, almost no other card can. You know, like if you have like all 4, say, you know, like if you have 3 Seaquakes in your hand, Seaquake doesn't help you to deal with having too many Seaquakes in your hand. You know, and you're not going to do anything. Like if you can't use the Seaquake or it's no use to you, your hand is clogged. Like these Seaquakes are dead cards that you really want to get rid of. Izumo helps itself. Like it's hard to get clogged. So I just love this card more and more and more, and it's reached a point where even if it doesn't like initially seem to make sense, I think this just makes sense with everything all the time. Soul Extraction. Normally I have like 3 soul extractions on like a lot of goddesses. No, Ra wants 4 because if she has this in her opening hand and you screw up or you have a bad start, bad hand, or she goes first turn, she will inevitably, and this is her favourite play, soul extraction. This is on insane mode, just to say. So they get bonus devotion. Just to get it out of the way first, right? They get bonus devotion. She will inevitably soul extraction to get rid of like that 8 bonus devotion that your insane mode opponents get. And then Phoenix Egg for her 5, you know, devotion. Phoenix Egg fits in so well here. She'll soul extract Phoenix Egg either next to her or next to you. And then if you screw up again and you've got nothing next turn, it's almost always like game over. Like it's just too much. It's amazing. She loves this. She is a rush character. She wants soul extraction in her hand and she wants it first turn right now. She wants to be able to attack you with it. Time reflow. I've talked about this in like so many deck descriptions. You know, because effectively the card isn't a card. You know, it's just like another copy of Soul Extraction. It's another copy of Seaquake or Armageddon or Earthquake. It is a card that allows you to use your graveyard as a toolbox. Whatever's in your graveyard when you've got a time reflow, you know, like you can just pull out the perfect solution, the perfect answer. If it's in your graveyard, you just pull it out. So time reflow I think is super great. Call to Arms, super amazing. Talked about it before about Ningyo with Amaterasu. It's exactly the same with Sphinx. Sphinx only costs 4 to attack. That is crazy value, right? 4 for 10 is already amazing value. Call to Arms makes that 2 for 10, which is better than an Athena, and Athena is considered an amazing beat stick. Absolutely insane. This is extrapolated by Battle Plan, which is even crazier. Suddenly, like, Call to Arms, when you've got a battle plan on the field, Sphinx had, like, this, like, battle plan Sphinx is already a finisher. Call to Arms is, like, exponential. You can do some very silly things. In the late game, this is why Ra is so dangerous. Even though it doesn't seem like she'd be dangerous in the late game, your opponent cannot leave openings, and if you Seaquake and, you know, the board becomes checkered and you've got, like, empty spaces all over the place, it's just over. If you do not kill Ra in like that turn or the next turn, she could just drop a mummy on you with Call to Arms, and she's still rocking like 40 damage, easy 40 damage in like 20 devotion. That's all she needs. 20 devotion, you're dead. And mummy's the most expensive. Absolutely insane. Rise of the Pharaoh again. Like in other decks, maybe I've had like 2 copies of this, 2, 3 copies. With Hades, I had 3 copies because you need to go fast. And Ra is exactly the same. You want to go fast. You need to go fast. Ra relies on having a great start she is not going to beat you like in long-term overall devotion generation. Her base generation is too low. Her ability doesn't help her get more devotion generation. It gives you positional advantage. It does not give you devotion generation. So in like a grindy game where, you know, you're just going head to head and it's unit for unit, she will lose that eventually. She cannot play like that. She can't just have a game where you just run into each other over and over again. She will never win that game. Rise of the Pharaoh gives her the start she needs to just go, right, well, you've actually kind of managed to get out of this. Oh, Rise of the Pharaoh, Seaquake, Phoenix Egg. Often that's what Rise of the Pharaoh is. Rise of the Pharaoh is literally what happens when you have enough for Armageddon. You Rise of the Pharaoh to give you 4 more, so you can Armageddon and immediately put down a mummy. That way, you've got 5 plus 2, and you know you're at 7 effectively, and your opponent's at 6. So you've got a 1 devotion advantage starting from the Armageddon as such. Rise of the Pharaoh is like that for her. She doesn't tend to need it for the bump. She tends to need it to bump more. She wants to just like she already like has the advantage in the early game. Rise of the Pharaoh is like just a nail in the coffin. It just allows her to just do even more damage, go even faster than she already goes, and Ra must go fast. She either must go very, very fast, or she must hang on until a late game. And you know where like just like residual damage from Seaquakes makes you low in health, or she's just going to lose. Everflowing Sun, I actually hate this card, but there is a lack of. I hate this card with Ra. There is a lack of draw in Kamigami right now. There's only so much of it, and I think most of it is absolutely terrible. This card has to be in here because similar to Zeus, you know, where Zeus like throws everything on the board, and then if everything gets cleared, Zeus's back is broken. Like she just can't come back. She struggles. You know, an Everflowing Sun in Zeus is a card that just allows you to sort of go, oh my god, like the board got cleared. I need to get something down. Everflowing Sun to draw you 2 cards. Maybe get a Minotaur or a Medusa. Just something, you know, like Everflowing Sun is just some way of getting you back into the game. Rara is kind of the same. She wants to go super aggressive, get in your face. Sometimes you just have to like Armageddon and reset. Sometimes you just need like that soul extraction. Everflowing Sun in an ideal world, you'd never have to actually play. Like you'd always have the card you need, but sometimes you just need that Seaquake and it's not in your hand. Or you need like, well, anything really. I mean, if you need it, Soul Extraction, Call to Arms, even a Rise of the Pharaoh. If you need it, Everflowing Sun just means like if the whole thing breaks down, your momentum just disappears. Everflowing Sun is just some way of just like getting your hand back together, getting a couple of options back in your hand, so you've got something you can do. You're not just completely like, oh well, the game's over, you know, it's all over. I tried to rush them down, it didn't work. They managed to get out of it. You know, like I tried to like close them in with units, but then I drew like 4 time reflow, like 4. I drew 3 time reflows. I couldn't put anything down, and they, you know, they managed to put permanents down while they weren't locked in. And Everflowing Sun is just that way of just like stopping you. It gives you some comeback potential, basically. Yeah, 23 minutes. I think that's all you really need for Ra. It's not complicated. Amaterasu took an hour to talk about, but Ra is very, very simple. She wants to smash your face. It's that simple. She wants to get on you. She wants to get in your face. She wants to attack you as hard as possible. That's really all you really need to know about Ra. She's probably the best rushdown goddess in the game. It only took us like an hour to do Norse mythology, and it took us an hour 40 minutes to do Japanese mythology. And that was with messing up and all the soul extraction in Japanese mythology, like screwing up our rush games. We had to keep resetting with Armageddons and then rushing them all over again. I really think that's everything. Like, I can't think of anything else to say about Ra. She's so straightforward. Like we had the deck figured out by Egyptian mythology. We already knew what we wanted to do, and then we didn't even need to change it. For like Norse mythology, Japanese mythology, we looked at the deck. There was nothing to change. Big, you know, like it really is that straightforward. Get on, people. If you want to make changes to the deck, the question should always be: is this going to make the deck faster, more aggressive? Is it going to close games quicker? Is it more of a finisher? You know what I mean? Like, can this allow me to rush people down faster? I couldn't find anything that's better than this. You know, like I looked through everything, trying to consider how we could improve the deck after Egyptian mythology. I couldn't see anything for Norse mythology. It took us an hour to go through Norse mythology, so I went into Japanese mythology. You're like, right, well, it only took us an hour and we smashed it. We barely lost. You know, I had another look, but This is it. This is the one. This is the one. As far as Ra's concerned, get on people, hit them.